Can you take a look at this and like let me know what you think, what you think is going on?
So this is probably a school in Bahia, but I'm not sure. But there's so many different ways of playing capoeira, and this is like more of a contemporary Baiano style. There's a lot of the acrobatics, a lot of speed. The game isn't necessarily all in close, but you can see the understanding of flow and of danger and escaping danger. It's very powerful, but people are taking care not to knock each other out. It's very fun, kind of open games, capoeira baiana.
Cool. What about this game? Like, what's going on here?
Okay, so this is Miojinho. It is a style that Mestre Suassuna created with some of his students in order to create a game that was, really powerful and expressive and energetic, but that also was not violent. Because if anybody knows, like the old school CDO, like they were fighters. They were the folks who sometimes would test their capoeira by getting into fights in bars and in the street. Just that Cobra Kai kind of thing that a lot of martial artists do in order to prove themselves. And the master was like, it does not make sense for my students to be picking each other apart all the time. It doesn't leave space to invite people in who don't want to have that lifestyle. And so Miojinho became kind of the core of the CDO style and his influence. Just the same way that the Senzala way of or style of play has influenced a lot of contemporary capoeira. Miojinho has influenced a lot of the way that people play.
I didn't know this was Miojinho. That's actually one of my next videos. I love this guy. It's called Miojinho Capoeira at the Beach.
Yeah, all the bendy, twisty. I think of it, and I haven't spoken to Mestre Suassuna about this, but I've spoken to a lot of his students, and it's very much similar to like a jogo de dentro, but without the objective of tricking your opponent and smacking them in the face. You're really trying to flow, and so you have a lot of like inverted escapes where you're escaping into the kick, but at a different level, and that makes it an escape. Whereas in a jogo de dentro game, that would be considered suicide.
I couldn't find too many aggressive games, but I didn't search very thoroughly, to be honest. These are just like some things that I skimmed through, unless there's those capoeira in MMA videos.
If you just search for Muzenza fight, you'll find some.
Muzenza?
Muzenza fight. Yeah.
This guy.
Because they had fighting tournaments, and I think they may still have them.
This looks like a compilation. Like this?
Yeah.
What are the rules in these competitions?
Every tournament, organization has their own rules, so I'm not really sure what the Muzenza rules were, but it's
like, I assume there's something preventing them from just taking them down and turning it into like jiu-jitsu or something.
So yeah, they're not a group that does capoeira. There are groups that do, but Yeah,
Just
as
all-
I've
it's
seen,
just all
like
different.
I've seen cajinos in their tournaments where like you just pick someone up and like slam them on the ground, but never grappling on the ground.
Like,
But
where's the line where? I guess that's what capoeira is. It's like the line is there is like no line. It's
there's
just
no
like,
line, and yet there is a
where-
line.
between the fight and the dance. Yeah,
Yeah,
the fight and the art, or the art of it all, I suppose. Going for a takedown.
but it's interesting because like for me, like you see the speed and the strength of the kicks and the attacks, and they're like it's very powerful. Like in the ring, like at close range, you get hit by something like that, and it's lights out. And people like Marco Aurelio and Tadarius Thomas have proven that efficacy in the ring and in the octagon. But at the same time, when you see it, especially in these tournaments, a lot of these kicks and a lot of these attacks are coming from a long range. And so the person just sees it coming, and then they're going to deal with it in the best way that they're going to deal with it. Whereas the classical forms of capoeira, be it capoeira regional or capoeira Angola, are about tricking the person so they don't see the attack coming.
Right.
And so I've always wondered what it would be like to see a capoeira Angola fighting tournament or a capoeira regional fighting tournament. But at the same time, I know that those techniques, they come out of nowhere. And if they work, you're escaping right into the kick. And so the physical damage would be really, really bad.
Also, like, that's not the music that they would be having,
No, it's very...
which is a big part of it, I feel. So I'm curious to see, like,
they usually have a bateria
experience.
they're playing, but I think,
This is also not it.
And so this is not a tournament, as far as I know, but it's just a rough roda.
With some very interesting music.
Very interesting music.
Well, speaking of Angola, I had this video over here. Like, what's going on here?
Okay, so
I'll move up.
this is Messi Claudio's group. So you see the full bateria.
Are these hats very Angola?
They're very much this group. Like kind of every group has its own proclivities and peculiarities that I think, like even more than Akane, Anglais du Sertão, like they have a very specific aesthetic that comes down to even like parts of their clothing that are not their uniform. But like very in close, like very similar to me and Jim as far as like a lot of bendy twisty, but there's never, well, there was kind of an escape into the attack, right? But it was at a different level, but not where you're opening up your face and your chin to the possibility of a foot coming down on it.
Do you ever get tired of capoeira?
No, there's so many variations, and I think that's also why I love our group and our group's philosophy around it, because Mestre Main has never been concerned about teaching a specific style, but allowing us to learn as much as possible and learn to do what works for our bodies, but also learning how to play to all these different games, and working within all these different traditions so that you can go to any roda and enjoy yourself.
But all the teaching, all the traveling, does it ever wear you out?
Yeah, sometimes. Like I definitely have to, like capoeira is not a sport anymore. It's a job. And it's not a bad thing. And it's something that I chose. At certain times I was called for it, but each day I continued to make that choice to continue on that path because I didn't have to start a school or accept remote students or any of that, but the influence and dynamic changes that have occurred in my life, so much of them have happened either because of or in the context of capoeira. And so it's a context that I want to keep alive and I want to also have an effect on, because there's also things in the context that have happened that are mishaps, let's say. And so to have the power and the position to make sure that the next generation doesn't have to deal with the same types of things that we've had to deal with, or at least are able to find better resolutions than we were able to find, is, I think, part of what I want to do.
Yeah, I think I have so much respect for you and for your commitment to capoeira, and anybody that can commit themselves to an art so wholeheartedly and just dedicate all of their time and energy into something, I think deserves respect, and is something that I strive to implement in aspects of my own life as well.
Word. I mean, I don't think everybody needs to be at that same level of commitment, but I think that's also part of my commitment, is that anybody can get in at the level that they're comfortable with, that functions for them. Capoeira shouldn't be like a mandate in their life that makes things difficult, but that should be a release valve, a place where they can find that recuperating space and that recovery, which sometimes is difficult because we ourselves don't want that or have resistance.
But. Let's see, what else do we got? I got one last link.
Oh, it's IG.
What do you think? What's going on in this game?
So, this is it's an interesting style of play that we're seeing a lot in Israeli CDO. And there's definitely this fast attacking, sometimes at a distance, sometimes in close, but there's also this leeway. And what some of the Israeli capoeiristas have told me about capoeira for them was that they have this ethos of potential violence in their lives. And so for them, capoeira was an escape. And that's why so many of them are great aerialists and just amazing acrobats and flying and that physical freedom was the thing for them rather than the fight. So you see all these near misses, but no one's really trying to hit each other. And the big thing is not the strike, but is the takedown, which is really part of the capoeira ethos in general. But in Mesa Main's era, you had people knocking each other out. Today we don't necessarily have that, and I don't think we need that. But it's definitely a very specific take and an application.
Cool.
Almost I don't want to say it's an escapism, but it's been described in a sense as an escapist way of dealing with a reality, or I would rather say an interpretation of reality.
Do you have any? That's my whole list. But do you have any other videos or any other things about capoeira that you like to share, or to give people an idea of the whole scope, or other styles or other perspectives?
If you maybe look up in YouTube, maybe Movimento Novo. So I like all the styles of capoeira and all the different ways of playing. I kind of see them as
this guy up here.
Yeah. So any style or even any specific martial art has its cultural antecedents that make it the way that it is. And so it can be a regional difference. It can be, who's doing it. And in this way, like the Movimento Novo thing was about trying to get people together past the boundaries of groups and rank. And so, there are no uniforms, no insignias, no expressions of rank. So you never know who you're playing, and there's not any specific style. And so the style of play that ends up coming out of it is like this. It's definitely very Angola, maybe because the bateria is, maybe because, Birama is very influenced by capoeira Angola and is very much a student of it. But also, it's alive, and you can go from, and this is to me, this is part of capoeira Angola. It can go from being slow and just smooth to being viciously rapid, and you'll see he does a lot of like repeat takes and playbacks when somebody gets taken down that just make the videos fun to watch. But I really like this way of playing. It's not going slow just to go slow, but to really work the strategy of the game. And then when that thing happens, it's just so alive and so impactful.
It's very intentional.
It's very intentional, very intentional, very focused, very objective.
Yeah, man, I go through my phases, sometimes I want to immerse myself in it. Sometimes I need to take a break. I'm a little bit in the latter category lately, but it definitely, definitely has a very special place in my heart.
I think that's a healthy way of approaching it. I think we used to have this thing of, if you want to progress, then you've got to train like 4 days a week, and you've got to and it was oppressive. And I think people still have that in their heads. So I think sometimes people don't want to do capoeira because they feel like they have to make this super consistent, hyper consistent commitment to it if they're going to do it. Because that's what the last generation did. But it doesn't have to be that way. And if you can think about it as, I'm taking a little break, I'm not gone, I'm just doing other things in my life, then it's perfect, because it's that balance. It should be a part of the puzzle. It doesn't have to be your whole existence. Yeah,
I always used to feel bad about it whenever I go through like these little phases, though. So it's like nice to hear you say that.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't feel, because I know that you're going to come back, and like the phase could last a month, it could last whatever, but that you're going to come back, and in a lot of cases, like there's going to be something new in your capoeira that was cooking at the time that you were away from the training, and so like even those breaks are part of the training and part of your growth, like in your skill.